Hey everyone, welcome to Crossroad Conversations with the Lewis Brothers, where we aim to share real stories about running a successful family business, working through adversity, and pouring back into the community that keeps our door open. We're your hosts, Matt, Shelby, and Taylor, and we bring you relevant local business advice and automotive insights that are sure to change the way you look at running a business, and maybe even throw in a plug for you to do business with us.
Welcome to Crossroads Conversations with the Lewis Brothers, episode 24, getting right in the middle of it. And what better way to get in the middle of the topic today? Let's talk about habits, the good, the bad, how it can affect your business or leadership abilities, but maybe more so than anything, the habits that you don't think about. That are, affecting you. They could be positively, but more so negatively that you don't really think about. So we're going to dive completely into that, how to double down on the good ones and how to break the bad ones.
Man, that's great. I can't wait to get into that. But before we do, we got to recap last week. And last week was about letting go. And if you missed that episode 23, please go back and listen to it. Man, was there some good, we'll call them nuggets in there that we went over of letting go. We're talking about letting go of inventory, not falling in love with it. Turn and burn that sucker. Keep that money turning and earning more for you. People.
Yep.
The process to go through with people to make sure you have the right people in place. Habits, which we're going to dive more into today. So that's a perfect segue into it. And then this one here, the old way of doing things. And I said this in the last episode, but I'll say it again. I don't think that there's a better resource than you can have than us of over 78 years and 4 generations of old way of doing things that have helped us be successful, but then how we're not just doing what we've always done because we got a different goal to get to.
Absolutely.
So, hey, make sure, as always, visit us at lewissuperstore.com. There you'll find all the current specials, all the updated inventory, over 1,000 vehicles in stock, priced, ready to go for you guys. And today, we drove something, didn't we?
There we go. So what did we drive today? We are talking truck month. So there's this time of the year, and it's now.
It's now.
It's the end of February, beginning of March, when the manufacturers say it's selling season.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of like springtime.
Like a bird.
They're rounding out into the first quarter. And the new model production, they've been able to fill up enough. So I think the 24s are sold off. The 25s, they've got enough on the dealer lot.
Okay.
And they say, let's roll out some big incentives.
Yep.
So stack manufacturer incentives plus the dealership incentives. So we drove an F-150 XLT, 4-door, 4-wheel drive, center console shift, sport package, heated seats, remote start,
All the gear.
dual power seats, big screen.
Okay.
But what I love the most, that's the truck that I drive. It's an XLT. It's a value-built truck. A push-button start. It's just a good truck. It's going to come with 4 different motors, however you want to do it. But we're talking that versus the Ram, whether that be a Bighorn or wherever that fits in it. Either one of those trucks is something we have running for $15,000 off.
I think that's the big point right there, Shelby. You said it, and what we're trying to get out there to people is that some people think they got to wait till December for the big.
Yeah.
Well, there's a hidden trick in mid-February through March of this truck month where the manufacturer is on the gas pedal to get an early lead in the game for the year, and they start with trucks. Why trucks? Because they've been the number one selling vehicle in America, period, especially the F-150.
48 years, best-selling vehicle is the F-150, standalone model versus model. It's been the best-selling. So, like you said, it's the way to not have to wait to the end of the year, because what will happen at the end of the year, there will be good deals, but your selection will be limited because they're working on the next model year.
That's right.
So it's the best time to buy. So F-150 and or Ram, up to $15,000 off.
How about you?
All right, now rolling into, we're talking the good, the bad of the habits. And we're going to start out with daily routines.
You bet.
So daily routines, and I'm asking you guys, and you kind of throw it back and forth, what does a daily routine look like for you? What are your habits in your routines, or what do you feel like are staples as part of those routines?
Sure, I'll say, now this is a tricky question. I'm not sure which side you want, but we'll do both. I'm going to go personal, myself, and then we're going to go into business.
Yeah.
So personal myself, daily routine, we got to start with the morning, what starts in the day. So my daily routine, wake up, get coffee going. I then head to the sauna I sit in the sauna. I do my quiet time, my daily devotionals in the sauna. So I got a little habit stacking going on there. And then next up is the cold plunge. So then I cold plunge. And by the time I'm done with both of those, and I've also organized my day, answered the emails I need to answer, so on and so forth, I've done all that before I come into interaction with anybody. That allows me to have a very clear, undisruptive focus to start my day off right with myself and me before whoever knows what is going to hit me. I'm in the right state of mind, and I'm focused, and I'm ready to go.
All right, so Taylor, talk about your routine, maybe within business.
Yeah.
So within business, your routine, what does that look like, whether it's starting the day or throughout the entire day? What does your business routine look like?
So business routine rolling into, I have of different shifts of people coming in. You got to make sure you have all of your daily content ready to go so that whenever your people are coming in, so want to make sure whether it's myself or other managers that they have the right material and they get it where it's available for any of the sales staff. Because I have two different shifts that are coming in. So know, hey, the early shift that comes in, they're going to be hitting it early. They need to have this available. So I want to make sure that we have any of the content available to be able to share it with any of the guys there. And then making sure, because it never fails, and Matt kind of hit this off the beginning there, but if you're not prepared and you come in, and I've learned this through the years, and you come in, you're always going to get hit with stuff whenever you're trying to get the day going. So if you don't get in there in enough time to be able to get everything going before your meetings, when your meetings are, your team, one, isn't going to be turned on and be moving in the right direction. Two, though, it's going to slow down you and your productiveness of getting the day going. So really of getting those specials, making sure all the machines are turned on and they're moving, then I can go and start working on my things around that. But that's the number one important thing to do in the morning.
I think this is important, and I need everybody to understand, is you need to focus on yourself first. And here's why. And I've learned this the hard way, and I've learned it from a lot of others too, is you are always influencing somebody every single day. You don't get to choose whether you're influencing or not influencing. You either get to choose, is it positive or is it negative? Now, that also happens, and you've heard us talk about nonverbal communication. 70%, we even heard a study the other day that was even higher.
Yeah, I said 90%.
90% is nonverbal communication. Let me walk you through what that really means from your employees. As soon as you walk in the door or you walk around your facility, do you know that the employees are evaluating you, what state of mind you're in? And they're then talking about it, what we call the meeting after the meeting. They're saying, hey, it's not a good day to ask them that. They look like they're in a bad mood. But
Let me give you a reference to that. It's so funny you say that because they are. So last night on my way home from work, and this will come full circle here, but I stopped at Lowe's. I had to get a couple things. It was 8 o'clock at night. The day had started at 4:25 in the morning. 4:25, my alarm goes off. I directly get my car, go to work out, go to work. Hadn't left work, so on my way home from work at 8 p.m.,
Sure.
I stop at Lowe's and I walk in and I know what I need. Don't generally want to talk to people. I've exhausted myself, which is another point. And the guy said, man, you look tired. And I said, I got all I could out of the day, buddy. Right? So my nonverbal communication without saying a word, he was like, man, you look tired. So going back to the beginning, if you don't take care of yourself, one, for the nonverbal communication, that when I wake up, I don't look fresh as a daisy. Like I might have bags under my eyes. I guess I'm getting older, just like I don't look ready to go.
I don't know if there's many people that do.
They don't, but I'm just, I'm taking responsibility. But so, in the cold plunge and the exercise, here's the problem that I find. If I don't take care of myself first and get myself battle tested and ready to take care of employees and customers, I have a hard time pausing being super productive in work and getting back to taking care of myself. So never mind the nonverbal, very important.
Yep.
But it's hard for me to say, okay, at 1 o'clock, I'm going to then go work out.
Yep.
Or when I get home from work, never mind my kids, that's not what I mean. Yep. But then I'm going to go work out.
Yeah, that doesn't.
I have to get my piece of the pie first to be ready for everyone else to be the best version of myself. So
I think that's really important. That's a good point you put on both sides there is don't you got to think about yourself to be able to have a better influence externally to all your employees.
It's not just all selfish, you know.
It's not.
It sounds that way, but it's not.
But it's not. It's not. And some of y'all think that like, oh yeah, you're prioritizing yourself first. Well, absolutely you are. And here's why. Not because you're being self-centered, not because you're being selfish, but because you realize the influence you have over your team.
Whole team.
And when we talk about this as our team, I don't care whether you have 3 employees out there or 200 employees. If you're a manager and a coach and a leader, your goal is how much of the X factor can you get out of it? Mm-hmm. So if you have 10, that's easy enough. If you have 10 employees, you want to get to as close as 100% out of them as possible for the day.
Yeah.
All right? And that starts with you and the reflection of you and taking care of yourself like you're talking about. That's why we're talking about these daily habits. I'm glad you bring that up because everybody thinks, and I've heard a lot of preachers talk about this too. They're like, hey, you think we just wake up and blah, 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 and all this stuff? All of us have to go through work to be able to get at that level of expectation to have our team produce at a higher level.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really good point, and I've learned this the hard way. You can't walk into work and then get ready to work.
No.
And one of my cheat codes of my daily routine, this is not rocket science, but this is something that's worked for me.
Sure.
One, my alarm clock, my phone is not in my room. Mm-hmm. So I will not negotiate with myself because I have to get up because there's 4 other people in my house that it will wake up.
Yep.
It's in my kitchen. Mm-hmm. I can't roll over and snooze it. And by the time I've got up, the most important part is I've planned for tomorrow before tomorrow happens.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, I will negotiate. Mm-hmm. This morning when my alarm clock went off at 4:25 a.m., I was like, I am grinding 3 hours a day, and I don't feel like I'm getting that much better. Like, that's 20 hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
But I already had packed my work clothes. I already had my workout clothes. My truck was started. The sauna was already queued to be turned on. I had already sent out automatic text messages from the night before that sent out that morning. So anything that could be negotiated had already been planned. It's no different than in business. Mm-hmm. Don't wait for the meeting to then plan the meeting.
Yeah.
Don't wait for the podcast to plan the podcast. Mm-hmm. Don't wait for the game plan for the month to happen and then plan the month. Plan ahead of time. That's one of the biggest mistakes that I've made.
Yeah.
Of winging it. Like, man, I'm good at winging stuff, you know, but at any point that you can have a decision to be made and it's a tough situation, mm-hmm. like the cold plunge, before you get in it, it doesn't sound like
you don't stand there and look at it.
It's 39 degrees.
You don't stand there and look at it.
Like, hey,
it's not enjoyable.
Once you're in it, and then through the initial shock, yeah, I enjoy it.
Yes.
But standing there at 39 degrees, making a decision, should I or should I not?
It's not something that you'd sit there and go, okay, today I desire a cold plunge.
Yeah, today I think 4:25 a.m. is a great idea.
Yes.
Like
it's because you're planning ahead.
You plan ahead, and then you'll have a whole lot less opportunity for things to go wrong because you've already planned for it.
I want to share with you another, and I know we're going to get farther in depth here, but this is a great time to talk about daily routines than in business. And there's a whole lot we could talk about here, but I want to share with the audience out there, and you guys have seen this too, how we've restructured, is something I learned a few years back. And I learned this from Alex Hormozi, who is a big entrepreneur in the gym world, and acquisitions and so on and so forth. A great mentor to listen to and look at. But he talked about designating your day and prioritizing it over with who should have the best of your energy. Here's what I had always messed up on in the past, and I'll try to make this story short, but I got to prove a point here, is I would load my mornings up with meetings.
Yep.
Now, nothing's wrong with that. Don't lose me. But I would load it up with meetings, so then my afternoon was free. So then in the afternoon, I could be able to walk around, help departments, be in the middle of it, see what's going on. The problem is I was loading my morning up past when I got past my manager meetings in the morning, okay? So once I got past 9:15, I would load it up with outside people.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And outside people would come in and we would meet about systems and we would meet about this and we'd meet about that, products and advertising and servicing. And I would load them in the morning so then they weren't on my plate in the afternoon.
Get it out of the way.
I'd get it out of the way. And I thought that was great and efficient.
Yeah.
Well, But my best energy, my highest level of energy and clearest thinking was in that morning time, between 8:30 and noon.
With someone
Every
that
single
you
day.
maybe never do business with.
Yes, with somebody actually you're going to be spending money with that's not generating money for you. So Alex talks about this. So I now will not schedule anybody unless it's just a one-off deal, okay? Normally I won't schedule anybody from outside coming in, only in the afternoon.
Yeah.
So then I devote my highest level of energy, my clearest thinking, the best that Matt can bring is devoted to his team, not to somebody outside before noon.
So that's a really good point of breaking a normal routine because you had always done that, because you didn't want to put chance at 1 o'clock or 3 o'clock. Well, because that's same philosophy most people think. You're like, hey, 1 o'clock or 3 o'clock, I might be deep into something.
Who knows?
I don't want to have a meeting that I have to stop for. But just by changing and restructuring that from taking an old habit and creating a new routine based on someone who has already experienced
Absolutely.
it, then you're like, huh.
Yeah.
So then you got to refocus.
Get to change it.
best.
And you could have looked at the other one going, that's very structured. Those are good habits, Matt. But were they getting to where we needed to be when you really focus on it? So I wanted to bring that up as well.
Yeah, and I think you go back and hit, like we talked about early on, that's a great example of maybe a bad habit that's not making you most productive throughout the day. You think it's really good because you're hammering and going through all of this, but you really sit back and look at it of, hey, is this going to help me be my optimal self or anything else? And you've already adjusted to that and being able to pivot and move to a different direction. So see a habit that you think you're doing so good at, if you don't step back and look at it or have other people look at it, you're never going to notice it's not the most effective.
That's really good. So in the last piece there, breaking down routines, let's talk about how leaders manage their time effectively versus procrastination or micromanagement. Like, what have you guys seen of how people effectively manage their time versus procrastination? Like, kind of what the end results look like, or how that works through their day.
I go back off of thinking of, and no different than us coming off the end of a month of forecasting of business or anything else. And you always go back at the end of the month whenever everything settles and you say, oh, where did I miss it? And it's never a big piece that you miss the whole opportunity on. It's daily task of going through. So where the procrastination starts to come in of a manager not going out and doing his daily task whenever he's supposed to, of going and doing his one-on-ones legitimately with his guys. If you started that from the beginning of the month, those 1, 2, 3, 4 other opportunities starting to fall in there makes all the difference at the end of the month. That's the biggest thing that I see in managers, and we realize that everyone has to be helped along and everything else of different levels of managers have to have different accountability from different people. So that's the biggest deal there that I see in our specific business of the daily routines.
I think that's a really good point of understanding the level of accountability.
Yes.
Because in today's world, generally speaking, majority of people say, what is the minimum I can get away with without losing my job and getting demoted? And it's not because they don't care or not because they don't want to work hard, but like, how much of a dog do they have in the fight, right? And even salespeople or sales managers who get paid on their production, still it's like, hey, so it's the person, and it always stares back at us of like, okay, how much of a routine is our accountability to them?
You bet.
And it keeps going down and down and down. So it's like, okay, do they have a system that knows that we're watching, that then they know that they're watching their next people? And so then we get to see the metrics all the way across, because as soon as that gets a little bit comfy, we talk about that, get that country club mentality, then it's like, and then you want to be like, what the heck? Okay, let's just completely take all the fun away and get back to this. You got to find that balance, but there's accountability in the structure.
Yep.
All right, so here's a big one.
Okay.
And when you read that question, I've been sitting here reading it again, trying to figure out how I could package what I want to say here and use myself as an example, because I've got a great example, just happens to fit right in with especially what I've gone through the past few years. And it says, how leaders manage their time efficiently versus procrastination and micromanagement. Now, One of the things that's really important to me and really important to our organization is the culture and the way we run our meetings. It's really important in this. And you've heard us talk about it before, is you're not going to come to a meeting that we're cussing, threatening, throwing things. We say, hey, you could bring your family if you wanted to. Now, it's going to have accountability. It's going to have a high level of energy. And we're going to go over facts, so on and so forth. But I'm really particular about meetings, and you guys know this, but especially for me to trust in somebody else to run the meeting, all right? So when it comes to my time efficiently and effectively, I was always micromanaging because I wanted to be involved in every single meeting and run that meeting instead of empowering others. Now, my fear of empowering others there was them running the meeting how our culture was. What was happening is then I was procrastinating against it because I didn't have the time to do it, so then the meetings didn't happen. Now, let me just put this in context, for example. Shelby and Taylor have been in we've been in a lot of meetings together. Like, in fact, if you just take 5 or 6 years, this is the minimum amount that maybe meetings that Shelby was, because he was the next age closest to me, 5 or 6 years, that was over 2,000 meetings that Shelby had been in that we've been in together to understand that format. And you think that's a bunch, but we have 15-minute meetings like that all the time. So then when it was time for him, like, okay, take over this meeting, I had full confidence that he was going to be able to do that. Same thing with Taylor. Well, now we've got all these meetings set up where we meet with department heads, and the way I can let go of micromanaging that and be okay empowering them is I have them turn in their meeting agenda that they're going to go over with their crew. So like yesterday when we were talking to our finance managers, who now they meet with all their finance managers, they have to turn into the agenda and recap. It's a way for me to check and balance, like you said, to make sure the accountability it's going right and manage it, yet empower them. That's been a huge change for me.
Yeah, I think that's just understanding of scalability and then knowing that you can still have some. So you just know that it's not a willy-nilly, like, hey, let's just show up and see how it goes. No. Because you definitely don't want that, right? Grand things. Not everyone, thinks good on a whim. Like,
They don't.
let's just show up and just try her out here. Like, plan. You have to make sure that you plan any of your routines. And so I think that's a really good point of like, okay, how do I scale, go to the next level? Because if you cannot remove yourself, you cannot grow.
You bet.
Right? And then you can't grow the people below you. And so they can't start taking over what you did so you can go to the next one.
And one of those things we do naturally on a Friday to be able to grow all of our managers is our Friday morning meeting. It's not one of the three of us talking the whole time. We might intro, we may give a couple tips here and there, but it's our managers meeting. Now we're there, and I tell our managers, like, if you hear us talk and inject in, it's because you were missing something there. Now, we're not going to call them out during the meeting. We'll talk to them about it later, and we're there to help them, but the spotlight's on them so we can grow them so they can grow their team.
No doubt. So in the performance, we're going to say, give me the ball. If they couldn't handle it, hey, give me the ball. Let's get in the end zone. And then afterwards, we can go back over that coaching council there. So
Hey, it's time for Fun Fact Quiz of the Week.
Fun Fact Quiz of the Week.
Fun Fact Quiz of the Week. This one, a little bit different question for you here, but Toyota uses a just-in-time production system.
We're talking about.
Where did the idea come from? So I've got a couple options for you. Restaurant, board game, supermarket, or schools. So
I think that was us in schools just in time. Go to school just
First bell didn't mean it. You had to get that second bell.
Second bell, Swarnson coming in hot there. So
I think I got this one figured out.
Okay.
Don't tell them.
You want to, but I think I'm in for the win, they say.
Hang on to it there going into, hey, on bad habits, break them before they break you. So this is diving into your bad habits. You know the ones that are bad, and it may be not even necessarily from you, but someone else on your team. So diving into their bad habits, break them before they break you. What are some examples of that?
Well, I'll throw this in there because there was a great link. I was glad you brought that up that said, here's the different areas it could be in. Just kind of get our minds going is bad habits could be poor communication. It could be micromanaging, a lack of trust, avoiding accountability, resistance to change, lack of emotional intelligence, And the list goes on and on there. Prioritizing profits over people, lack of vision and direction, like all these different things that no different when I was talking about scheduling the first part of my day with meetings from people outside. It is so easy to get caught up and think you're killing there. And do you think any of our employees are going to say, Matt, you should schedule those meetings for the afternoon? None of them would say that. So if you're not constantly getting poured into, so I follow a bunch of different people online that are more successful than I am in different areas. And Alex, I learned that from. You take that piece and you put it in. But if you're not looking for that, you can't break bad habits in those areas.
That's a really good point. There's another one of those you pointed out was resistance to change. So resistance to change, whether that be a process, a pay plan, how we do something, or the structure of it. And we talked about this long before we moved, but then we said at move, that was such a great time because we always talk about, there's a book said, Who Moved My Cheese? And in our fixed operations, which would be parts and service, most especially, or tenured employees that have been there a long time, more often than not, it's don't move things, right? They work, don't break them. And so then that's our job, kind of not just to break processes, but to measure a process. Is it the most efficient? Is it the most effective? Is it the best for the consumer? Is it the best for the employee? We just hired another finance manager, and some of the current finance managers are like, whoa, hang on, why'd you bring in another finance manager? So resistance to change there. And we said, hey, from an outside view, the consumer's having to wait longer, which is not good for experience, which is we're in the experience business because people have options. The salespeople are having to wait longer. The office can't get a hold of everyone all the time because you're always with the customer. And them being highly driven, people, they say, I can handle it all. And so there's just metrics to look at that. So we had to make sure that we weren't sticking to outdated strategies or our scale of what we had before and covered it with X amount of people. Now we needed more. So just understanding that it's still different than that book I talked about of buying back your time, of understanding that, knowing what that factor is. If what it costs you to do that duty in 1 hour and your wage was X, if you could buy that time back to have an assistant or someone else help you do that at 25 cents of what you got paid, it made automatic sense to hire that person to do that process at 25 cents. So you have to be careful there in resistance to change because no one's going to tell you within your business that it's a good idea to change something or to move someone or to bring in someone new,
And I think the point you hit there is nobody heard on there the bad habits that everybody knows about. Those really aren't the ones like, they're important. Like, hey, you shouldn't pull through fast food today and eat that. Or, you should show up to work on time. Or that you shouldn't cuss at people. Or all these things. You're talking about layers deeper that then make even a larger impact. And I think those are the habits that most people miss. What we're talking about is what are those unknown habits that you're doing that you might think in your mind are necessary and they're actually moving the needle, but they're not. I like this that I want to share with you that Craig Groeschel, another leader out there, he said this. So think about this. He says, just because you can or have the ability to do a certain task doesn't mean that you should. Your habits will shape your results for better or for worse. So when you start thinking about that, I get caught in that. We talked about that on a previous episode. Is there's a lot of things that I can do. There is. I'm not saying I'm the best at all of them, but I can do a lot of things, and we grew up that way, being in a family business. But there are some things that I shouldn't do, even though I can do, and that's a bad habit. That if, like you said, if I could have somebody else do it on 25 cents on the dollar, what time could it free up that then I could invest to be able to help grow the team, the business, whatever else even more?
That's such a good point because especially if you're listening to this and you're a leader and you have the ability to make decisions, should we do this? Should we hire? Should we fire? Can I leave early? is my vacation policy really stand for me? Like, if you are the owner and business person, and we've seen it right and wrong 1,000 different times, and we were just raised, go to work, work hard, speak with your actions. Words are important, but your actions, parking in the back of the parking lot, driving an average car. All those things. First one to be there, last person to leave.
Oh, yeah.
And that's something I think that shows up and is with me every single day, and I know it is with you guys as well, that you could go do whatever you want, but you have to be careful in your growth of all the people watching and paying attention, that not creating those habits of just because you could doesn't mean you should, because everyone's watching.
You bet.
And then they're going to form a, why can't I do that? I work hard. Why shouldn't I do that?
Yeah.
And sometimes that holds us back a little bit.
Yeah.
But sometimes I tell Taylor, I'm like, hey, I need an XL work truck.
Yes.
Why?
Like shovel
Steel
stop.
wheels.
You're
I need to be parked in the back of the parking lot. I need to be the first one here, as I am.
Yes.
And I need to be one of the last to leave. And I don't need to go anywhere for lunch. And I need to make sure that we're here and we don't take more vacation than we allow anyone else to take, all those things. And sometimes you burden yourself with those things and forget to enjoy life. But people are paying attention and watching. Don't create just because you should doesn't mean, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
That's right.
Yeah,
I think, you're talking about how people see like what you drive and what you do. I can remember this conversation with Dad multiple times growing up. And, of course, we were all just mesmerized by the vehicles and the new Mustang out and the new this and the new that. And I can remember Dad driving a Focus. And nothing's wrong with a Focus.
No, that's sweet.
But the guy owns the company, and he's driving a Focus. So, like, I'm not going to say below average, but, like, it wasn't even the average vehicle of, like, the XLT F-150.
Correct.
And I'm like, Dad, why are you driving the Focus? He goes, because we need to increase our sales in that, and everybody watches what I drive, and they ask questions of me. And then I can remember the same thing happened on the Dodge Caliper, that he drove one of those. And then he had a Nitro that he drove. And then he had a regular cab F-150 that he drove. And like each one of those, and that stuck in my mind. And I can remember when the first like hybrid plug-ins Ford came out with on both the C-Max and the Fusion, is I was in a C-Max plug-in.
I think it was nice.
And everybody asked me again, like, why are you driving that? Why are you driving it? I could hear out of my office. You remember the acoustics in that office? You could hear everybody on the showroom. They would talk. They're like, hey, my boss is driving one of these, and he could pick whatever out. So you hear that power of influence there. That's so good. I think bad habits, too. I'm going to switch gears a little bit because I want to bring this up so we can talk about the elephant in the room. You know what? We could have just stayed where we were on 71. We had paid for buildings.
Someone made us move.
We had paid for buildings. We could have put some more paint on it, bought some new furniture. Our employee size before we started scaling was in that 130, 140 range. We really had our thumb on everything. Everybody was making it. We were making a great living.
Expenses
were good. Everybody's in check. And we made a huge change. We went from not owing anybody any money to owing a lot of money. A lot of money. And really this big audacious goal of uprooting the whole thing. And going, here's what we predict by Northwest Arkansas will do. Here's where we are in our career. We don't have all the money to do this. We're going to have to go get it. But are you guys ready to go?
And that's a really good point, because we've had long conversations.
10 years worth.
Yeah, like heartfelt of like, is this really what you, because we're about to saddle up something big. Right?
Big.
Like, we can ride this to the sunset. We have many years of work left, right? We have many years of work left, but we can throw some paint on this. We'd redone some departments.
We have some stores.
Just get the stripers out in the parking lot, stripe the
Recode it
parking lot,
again.
recode it. And it made sense, and it worked, and not too many people complain. There's always complainers, but it was a progressive thinking. And there was lots of sleepless nights of missing deadlines, not getting the city approvals, and they're just like,
what are we doing?
this is so much money. Like, are you kidding me? We're just three guys from Prairie Grove. Like, there's no way that we should be dealing with this scale.
I mean, we were really hanging, and this is a whole different episode of like later on to be able to tell the aftermath, because we all know where we're going. We're not there yet.
No.
But we were hanging our family's legacy out there.
Yeah.
Yes. And we had a good amount to put down towards the project, but not all of it.
No.
And if it blew up and this and that,
It was
3 generations before us trusting us, leveraging all of that to make this. I mean, guys, we're talking about you guys have driven by and seen it, a huge move.
Oh, yeah.
So anyways, I guess my point in that is don't be afraid.
Don't be afraid to jump.
change, to jump.
Make sure that you do your due diligence. It was
Yeah.
10 years.
Yeah.
His dad would say, I just let him stew on it, right?
It was stewed.
We stewed for 10 years.
Meat was done.
We interviewed all the people. We've been in more meetings. Your calculation of meetings doesn't even start to
I know.
cover.
I figured if I said like 5,000 to 10,000, then nobody'd believe.
Scare 'em.
Oh, Lord. I mean, I can verbatim all the things. But so make sure you do your due diligence to make sure it's the
that's
correct time,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's the correct place, it's the correct scale, and that you want it.
Uh-huh.
You have to want it.
If you don't have the want, you
It's
couldn't have made
not
it.
about the sex appeal of having a new and shiny, because it's cool,
It is cool.
but it hurts. I mean, it's big.
Yeah, the thing that I laugh about, because you said don't be afraid of the change. We are so good in making a 1950 Festiva look like the best thing ever.
Yeah.
It wasn't until we went back to the old buildings whenever we completely stripped
Because
them
we
out.
left that over there for the
Yeah,
garage.
Yes, he was over there, and we were like, oh my gosh. Like, we had heard customers say, you need to upgrade, you need to do, so don't let yourself get to the point of your customers wanting to go do anything else before you're making that change. Once you do the research. But we had stayed so positive in our head of this is so nice, we're going to keep putting this together, it's so good, everything else. That is positive thinking of going through. So don't let yourself get so far down into that.
That's a really good point, because you will justify sleeping in. You will justify eating McDonald's. You will justify.
Easy.
They say you put a crab in boiling water, it'll jump right back out, but you put it in normal room temperature water, it'll slowly start to boil it. No one realizes you're stinky when you get stinky,
Yep.
unless you just dump some stinky on your head.
Yep. That's
right.
No one realized your current process was not effective
Yes.
until someone else tells you, or it breaks or falls apart, right? So
Your senses adapt to whatever you're in, and the part about the stinky, that's a great example of somebody can come over to your house and you've been living in it, the dog's been peeing in a room or something, and you just got numb to it. They come over, they're like, whoa, what happened?
I came home the other night, the kids had started a fire in the fireplace. I opened the door and I was like, good night, Chi-Ching Chong. I was like, what? And they were like, what? It's fine. I was like, no. Open the windows and the doors. And this was full of smoke because they were in there when the fire started.
Yes.
And they had adapted to it. So outside sources,
Yep.
get away, get some clear mindset of
Yes.
how does it look? Does it adapt to what our current culture is, our current market?
Yes.
Growth, new.
Yep.
Are we still in the game, or are we the stinky kids, right?
Yeah.
So we didn't want to be the stinky kids anymore.
You can't do any of these things we're talking about, or we've talked about in previous episodes, if you don't have trusted resources to give you clarity. And I'm telling you, the majority of people I listen to, podcast-wise, read-wise, they don't know me from Adam.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they might not even know who you are. But with the internet and with all the podcasts and with all the shorts and the reels and the TikToks, if you get down the right avenue, you will find enough other people that can make you think differently and give you a clear vision. Okay? And then there's plenty of conferences out there. I don't care what you're into. If you're in construction or automotive, there's an association somewhere. Get around those people. And if it's not that, get to the chamber, get in their leadership deal, and just step out. Just for a couple minutes to help you see that clarity. If not, you'll be stuck in the stinky room.
You won't find it. You won't find out you're stinky while you're in the trenches.
Won't happen. It just won't
Not
happen.
while you're in the trenches. So delegate and reevaluate.
Absolutely.
All right. Hey, next up, back to our fun fact quiz of the week. The Toyota uses a just-in-time production. I remember going through that in school about the just-in-time. They were talking about.
Let's go to talking about that. Yep.
Hopefully I passed that one. Where did the idea come from? Here's where y'all choices. Was it restaurant, board game, the supermarket, or schools? Give me this one. Which one do you think it's not?
It's not schools.
Not schools. We knocked schools out.
Yeah. I don't think it's a board game.
Okay, so
it's got to
not-
be.
So that comes down to restaurant or supermarket.
It's not the supermarket.
It's the supermarket.
It's not the supermarket.
Oh,
Is it the super? No,
Yeah.
it's the restaurant, right?
No, it's the
it's
supermarket.
the supermarket.
Supermarket?
Yeah.
That's how I read here.
Yeah.
I'm just reading it off the page. It's the
Well, I'm
supermarket.
thinking about it from today's day of McDonald's.
I think you think of that, but then you got to think about where do they source their stuff from. So then if you think about the supermarket or the production of food, it's just in time.
Just in time, so the supply is available just when you need it.
Just when you need it, won't spoil.
Won't spoil.
Okay, you don't have excess.
You don't have excess inventory.
Yep.
You know, so you're not paying for inventory. So they just realize what their sell rate or their take rate was and have just enough, which is super tricky.
It is
Like,
tricky.
Come COVID, just in time wasn't working so good. You know?
Well, and I think it proved that how much non-just in time some of the manufacturers were, because our real COVID, like from a business standpoint, not from an employee standpoint,
Effect,
yeah, it was about 18 months later, almost 2 years later. If you'll think from 2020,
Came late.
2020 was great, 21. It's not till all the reserves ran out because they weren't just in time. But if you can get just in time, it's different in our parts department we've talked about. It's just in time. You know, Ford Parts turns their inventory quicker than a month, almost 2 times a month sometimes. So that's good. All right, next up, hey, let's talk about good habits to pursue. And I'm going to kick this to you guys to talk about. But before I do that, here's a thought starter there. Good habits to pursue. I'm going back to Craig Groeschel on this one. Listen to him, what he said. You don't grow by doing more. Man, am I guilty of that. You don't grow by doing more. You grow by doing more of what matters most. Think about it. Let it sink in. Most leaders just want to do more, busier, take on more, conquer more, and you don't grow more in your impact, your influence, in your production by just simply doing more. What about y'all? That one strikes home.
Absolutely.
That's just been our philosophy of working hard. Just go. Get there earlier, work later, do more. I can do that. Let me have that. Give me that. You know, we talked about that in the early things that I had to take from you in construction.
Yep.
It's like, let me work on a couple things to take some stuff on your plate. Like, you know, you do that, but let me get you the information. So what are some...
I think what that, so how that kind of parlays into what are some good habits to pursue is that, hey, the structure and the work ethic there is good.
Correct.
Okay. It's just what you put in it. You know, how you delegate your time. So some good habits to pursue, I guess that's my point in that, is he talks about not just doing more, but he runs you through this analysis of what are some of the things that you do that nobody else can do. One of the things he talks about, he goes, early on, I locked and I unlocked the church every single day. I paid every bill every single day. He said, then when I started going through there, could somebody else do that? And then focus on the good habits that get the X factor.
I've fallen victim to that 1,000 umpteen times, right?
Nobody else can lock and unlock these doors.
Well,
Really?
I've been, because I haven't set up the correct structure to know that that's very specifically what I've been on the parking lot of 26 acres with a leaf blower, just aggravated because there's just stuff piled up everywhere. Sure. Or I have a push sweeper and I've been out there sweeping the parking lot. Shelby, that is the worst possible use of your time ever.
But it's hard to change that.
Oh, buddy. So one of the first things of great habits of great leaders is self-discipline and strong routines. So you have to know your discipline not to, now I'm not saying walk past a piece of trash, pick it up, but when you do that, I noticed that yesterday I was in the gym and I said, hey, while I'm here, I can do some laundry, right, for all the towels. And in between working out sets, I would fold a couple more towels.
Sure.
When they were done with the dryer. Well, quickly I turned around and all the towels were folded and I was over on another workout and I came back and the other people had seen me do it, so they did it.
Sure.
So just realizing that, and that's always been the positive doing and seeing people do that, but knowing your self-discipline and your strong routines to know what's good for you to be able to do. So you're not just doing all.
I think, and Taylor, I'll kick this then over to you. One of the things we talk about during our manager meeting, we've got, we always have sayings to relate things so then they understand. And one of the good habits to pursue on a daily basis is to make sure your department and those producers in your department are in the right mindset and they're focused and they're ready to go. What we talk about is the breakers. And you got to go around your department and make sure none of the breakers are flipped off. The easiest way to think about that is in an assembly line, if you got a conveyor belt that the breaker's flipped on, it can't keep producing, its product coming out. And the longer you wait to go address that, you've lost that production. So a good habit is making sure that you make sure that within your department, we don't have any trip breakers. And the earlier you do that in the day, the bigger X factor you get.
Yes, that's big rolling into of making sure that's all done, but you have to have clear expectations. Shelby's talked about this of going through, but your team, whenever there's things that you think haven't gotten done or anything else, you have to go back and ask yourself, hey, have I clearly voiced this? Have I clearly set this out that this is what needs to be done? Don't get aggravated at your team whenever they don't know X, Y, and Z to do if you have not clearly set policies, procedures, whatever else they need to do. I laugh, and I've told them this a couple of times, but locking up every night. We have one of the doors that's in the hallway, and it always is left unlocked. And I was locking it last night, and God, it's always unlocked. I'm like, Taylor, who have you told that needs to go through and lock this every night?
Golly, that was gotcha.
Who have you told? So I can't get mad. I'm like, okay, going through, like, that needs to be of whoever other managers in the department, but set those clear expectations, and then you continue to let them grow. You go back and you check them to make sure their switches are turned on. And in the breaker thing of going in, whenever you see a situation's not running how it needs to, like, hey, hold on, they're in an argument or a disagreement or whatever it is, let it play out, but then reset the breaker, whether you're grabbing the department manager, whether you're grabbing that employee, and you say, hey, let's look at it this different way. I always love, and I've got a manager that sits beside me that's just wound up, excited about life. And I always tell him, hey, let's look at it this other way. Let's do this. And he's like, well, why would you do that? You have to look at the overall picture to be able to do this. So make sure you're going through with your team. Reset the breaker whenever you need to. But the biggest deal, have clear expectations.
That's good. That's good for sure. I say, we've talked a bunch about these good habits kind of throughout this whole episode. And I think, Shelby, I know you'd resonate with this and you might even expound on it more, but it's just taking care of yourself first, prioritizing yourself first, not because it's about you, it's for what you can bring to your team to get the multiplication factor, and then just allocating your time properly.
Well, I think that's so good, and I've done it both ways.
Sure.
Right? In my younger years, I'd show up willy-nilly and,
just grinding through it.
Oh, Lord, just grinding through it. And once I got in the routine, in the day,
you were good.
I was ready to rip. I was good. But the first X amount of hours, people probably didn't respect me, because just like, look, that guy just woke up.
Wait till 10 to ask him a question.
Yeah, look at him. He doesn't look happy. Somebody get him some coffee or a sausage biscuit or something, right? And so it wasn't until I completely figured that out. And some people would call me intense. Majority of people would call me intense, but it's because I've seen the other side.
Sure.
Of not having structure, of not taking care of yourself. And if I can overcome those little hurdles there and win and take care of myself, then I can 10x majority of people out there. And it's not because I'm superpower. It's because I've seen the other side and I can fully micromanage all those things, and we can check on those people and make sure that people are ready to go. We can see a situation, reset that person, help them get back in it. If you talk about a stall utilization and somebody's in a bad mood, you've got 8 hours of that person in that stall, and if they're in a bad mood or mad at parts or mad at their service advisor, the service manager, their scheduler, it's 8 hours get thrown out the window. Then their family is affected by that, then the customers of that 8 hours is affected by it. So if you can properly set that up, let your team know, and never waste a good opportunity to create a new routine or a new habit or focus back on that, right?
Yep.
So if Taylor takes that door locked philosophy and doesn't go around to his team and set here's the primary person to do it, Here's a secondary, and here's a third person to do that. If he wastes that opportunity, then he's just back in the same boat.
Absolutely.
Right? And it's only his fault, right? And so we get to look at that every single day. And so we get to create those good habits. And then we get to share that example no different than you just did with us. So you get to use it as, hey, here's real world. You've never been able to teach somebody, in my experience, better than if you tell a story. In my meetings, I try to always somehow put a story, because I can have a room full of people for 45 minutes to an hour. And I can, if I have 45 people, I can have roughly 4 or 5 people taking notes. Think about that. That's less than 10%. And yesterday in our meeting, I said, take notes no less than 15 times. Gave them a sheet of paper, made sure they all had pens. That's a check. And then I say, take notes about 15 times. So I can have 10% take notes. But if I can say halfway in there, somewhere in there, I say, hey, do you mind if I tell you a story real quick? They will all look up, they will all pay attention, and they will all remember what I said.
Absolutely.
So if I can help them with their daily habit or routine, scheduling things ahead of time, knowing what I want to say or what that story is, so I'm not just willy-nilly, then I can help them be more successful.
That's a great example of doing less with more impact and understanding your audience. And I'm not going to go into the learning pyramid, but understanding your audience. But
it's just because I've heard it 2,100 times.
If you're going to hold a meeting, make it one that's worth coming to.
Oh, my gosh.
So now I'm not saying you don't have to have a 45-page PowerPoint. Sometimes you need it. You don't have to have a 2-hour agenda. But I'm telling you, even my 15-minute meetings, I have at least the core structure of it. I've left flexibility because you don't know what's going to come out of it.
Correct.
Okay? But if I don't put the time into designing a meeting that's of value to people to come to, why are they going to want to show up? So if you don't have people coming to your meetings, or if they're complaining about your meetings, you first need to look at yourself. And maybe you got somebody else in your organization that's better at speaking, or that's better at telling stories or music or whatever else it is. It's not that you're not going over enough. You might be going over too much and your structure's wrong.
Or you might be the speaker or the deliverer, but not the creative.
Correct. Yep.
You know, so I was going through with a salesperson yesterday, and we were talking about, hey, show me what your social plan is. They were like, and I said, hey, do you mind if I share with you what I've learned? You can get hung in a creative rut for a long time. I said, have you heard of ChatGPT? And so like, yeah. And they're like, yeah, I'm kind of working on it. I said, see, that's your creative crutch just broke. You can't even get the ChatGPT machine to work. I said, do you know you can voice to text to ChatGPT? You don't have to type it. Like, I said, okay, do you have 2 minutes? And so I broke down an entire 30-day relevant to him, relevant to our red hot savings for February. It told him what to post, what to film, and where to post it.
That's good.
So all he had to do was actually do it. And so if you in your meeting don't know, go to ChatGPT and be very specific and say, my name is Shelby. I run a HVAC company where we specialize in products $5,000 and less. We service local community. We've been doing this for 10 years. Help me run a team of 15 people, a sales meeting that needs to be 15 minutes or less. Something that's effective. And at the end of the day, they take home 3 points of what they can do today. And hit go in ChatGPT, it will blow your mind. It's free 99, and it'll write a whole thing for you. Don't even get me going down the whole thing of that I can get someone to read it and create the video for it. But then I say, write that in simpler language.
Exactly.
And then that can help you, because you might be a great communicator, but not a good creative person.
I
but it
can
needs
tell
to be
you,
worthwhile.
everybody's not good at all those pieces. So you either have to find some systems, like ChatGPT, or people to help in your organization. And be okay. Be humble, okay? And allow them to come in to enhance that.
We did that. We've started doing it more and more and more and more and more. Right? Give it to other people, allow them to do it, and then we're like, wow. And I got the free time, and you were good at that. You were much better than I was.
Yeah, your win is developing them versus your name in our business being on the car deal or on the repair order.
Absolutely.
Anything else to add there?
No, y'all hit the nail on the head.
Okay, next up, we got a little, a frequently asked question or something related to this. I'm going to ask each one of y'all a question. You can see what the question is there, and you can kind of share with the audience here. So, Taylor, we'll start with you first. Of course, we're talking about habits. So, Taylor, what is a habit that you would like to be better or change?
I would say probably, and this is relevant of what I'm going through right now that I'm going and dealing with every day. It's got to be of my morning routine. I've got a 2-year-old that wakes up really early and will get in the middle of it and is a gremlin stage going through. And majority of times, and I fight with this of going through what y'all have all went through this, but by the time I get home at night, he's already asleep. But then he wakes up in the morning, so you're trying to fit it all in of going through and with your schedule. So really of fine-tuning my morning routine of going through there. It's just, I laugh, 4:25. I got to wake up even earlier. Shelby just likes waking up really early. But if I put my phone in the other room, I would sleep straight through it. I am like a bear. But I'd have to get one of those alarm clocks you have to stand on, get out of bed and actually stand on.
I heard it this morning running. It's the buzzer on a garbage truck.
Yes.
That's what I'm going to get for you.
Yeah.
I'll put it outside so you have to get up fast so your 2 dogs or your son or your wife don't wake up.
Yes.
And you've never gotten out of bed faster than hearing them. Whatever the garbage truck.
Growing up, I had one of the old school ones that had the double bell on the top.
Oh, yeah.
The only way it'd stop is if you stuck your hand in the top.
And you learned how to do that while you were sleeping, didn't you?
yeah.
See, you had to take it out of the room. So.
But that's a good point. I think it's important for everybody to understand, including us, is you've got all these different phases
Of life. Yeah.
and you got to adjust that.
Yes.
And if your son's 2 years old right now, and you can spend more time with him in the morning, like, okay, but if you're going to do that, you got to do this over here.
Absolutely.
Or you got to at least take care of yourself a little bit before you're at home seeing him.
You just have to wake up earlier, and you have to adjust that. So that's no different than pivoting in business and life and work, anything else. Your life, as it goes through its phases, will change. So you need to always just be changing on that to make sure you're optimally doing what you can do best for you.
That's a great point, and just to hone in on that, I'm okay. So I am a morning person because I wake up in the morning.
Sure.
I am not. I'd slept in the first 5 years of work. I would show up just at the last minute that I had to be there before I get hollered out at a meeting, and it was, it just is like. I don't know how many brothers was like, listen, you idiot, you got to be here before then.
I mean, I don't know how many people naturally are morning people, but I mean, I can tell you the amount of times we've woke up early and gone run. It might be an hour before either one of us even said a word to each other.
Right?
You know what I mean?
But then
It's okay. We were mad at each other.
You knew the end result was good.
Yeah.
Like plenty of times there would be a text that would say, hey, 6 a.m. in the morning, 9 miles. Like, maybe a thumbs up, maybe like, okay. And then we show up, not say a word, go for a run. And they get down, it's like, whew, that was kind of tough. It's like, yeah, I was going to say something, but I wasn't away. But you knew the end result was good and you knew you needed it. And it took time. Like, it takes time. So you'll get it. You'll find it. A routine that works. So that's good.
All right, so Shelby, next up for you. What is a habit that you do not currently possess but like to have?
Yeah, so opposite. So now I know how to go fast.
Sure.
Now I know how to multitask and do all. I am an all or nothing person.
Yeah.
So like on my day off, I can easily be very lazy, which if you know me is you would not ever guess.
Sure.
So I have to have structure, and this is just pulling the veil away and telling you, or I'll sit around and do nothing. And so I have to learn how to not be going 1,000 miles an hour. Like I can build an entire bunk bed set in 6 hours, right? Like if I'm doing something, I'm cutting and hammering at the same time. You guys know that. If I'm running, I'm listening to a podcast at 1.5 times because I knew I can get done faster. I wish I will work on being able to be more present and moving slower at the right time. So when it's not time to be going full speed, so time with my family, Because generally, like the guy said at Lowe's last night, dude, you look whipped. It's like, got all I could. I knew there was nothing else to get.
Yeah.
But then when I get home, and we've talked about this before, am I giving my best to my kids?
Sure.
I'm on the couch and I could be,
Yeah.
I'm whipped, right? I could be asleep like this. I sleep good. So figuring out how to still be present when I'm not 1,000 miles an hour.
I think that's tough, especially for a lot of either entrepreneurs or type A personalities.
Yep.
This is on-off switch, and we've got it programmed of like, hey, anything's worth doing, do it at max capacity.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you a great example of that is whether we're out at the lake, we'll go to the family's a lake, or we've got a different area that we'll go to with land to go ride four-wheelers and shoot and all this stuff. Either one of those places we have a cabin on, and it's when we get there of just embracing and enjoying that and the family and the people we are, because we all can find projects to work on there.
So, and I love that. And so that's been so good of us having those places. We dreamed of that place, our getaway place that we could get away. And I love it. I love it for Matt's sake, because he's the same philosophy as me, that he can't escape. And so then he can't escape to go home. So then we get to be together, hang out together, not as business people at the time, not as solving all the problems or the things. We just get to be present with our family and with our kids and being able, what I'm talking about. So we do it some. I want to be more of that. Because it's fun just to be, I get to be just human.
Yeah, I could work on that over there, but I'm not going to.
Yeah, because we'll get out there and the tractor's broken and give me a chainsaw and I can cut down 78 trees and Shelby stop. What are you doing?
Yeah.
And so it's like, hey, what are you going to work on? I'm going to work on nothing, but I'm not just going to sit on my couch and scroll. Right?
Yeah.
Or I'm not just going to go straight to sleep and get my 6 hours.
Yeah.
So that's the habit that I do not currently possess or do not do good at possessing.
Sure. That's a tough one for sure. Well, hey, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Man, did we get into a bunch of great subjects on habits, both personally and then within business. I hope this has helped you to be able to lead your organization to a new level. Please make sure to subscribe and tune in so you can get content like this and many others about running your local business. And as always, hey, reach out to us. If you know us, text us, shoot us an email, drop by the dealership, or you can comment on any of this stuff. If there are current subjects or something that you're dealing with out there that you need help with, we'd love to talk about it here at the next podcast. Our goal is to bring you a great level of value to help you to be able to better manage and lead your business here in Northwest Arkansas. As always, you can find us at lewissuperstore.com or on crossroadconversationspodcast.com. Hey, thanks for joining us today, and we hope you enjoyed this episode. Make sure to give it a like, share it with your friends and family, visit our website, and send us some questions. We want to know what you'd like to hear, who you'd like to hear from, and what you want to see, or maybe even some questions for us to answer about either the automotive industry or just business in general.